Hello, welcome back to Robots Retro Spaces. It's been 6 months since my last update, and the reason for that is because I didn't do anything on the car physically through winter. It's just not a lot of fun working on a car in an English winter in a small garage with bad lighting and no insulation or heating. So what I did instead was I spent the time trying to make some decisions to help me give some focus for the rest of the build. So for the next 5 minutes or so, I'm just going to talk you through what those decisions were. I think you guys might actually find this quite helpful if you're considering your own project. There were 3 decisions. One is what to do with the car, like what goes in the car, like what options go in the car. Number 2 is what to do about the engine, and number 3 is what to do about the bodywork. So number 1 is that when it comes to what goes in the car, like what options, I spent a long time thinking about this, because if you don't decide on what you want, you'll end up every time there's an option of like, oh, do I put in a stereo, do I not put in a stereo, do I put in an oil cooler, do I not put in an oil cooler, do I put in AC, do I not put in AC, you'll be wondering what you should do, and you'll go right back to the start and you'll end up with no consistency. So the thing that brought this home for me was trying to decide what wheels to buy, because the ones that are on it are fake Dukes, they're autocross wheels, and I want proper Porsche wheels on it. And basically I had 2 options. I had the factory fitted standard, which is cookie cutters, or and after a lot of actual investigation, because it wasn't easy to find, factory 15-inch Dukes. Now for me, making that decision was probably the hardest decision I had to make, because we all know how cool a car looks with Dukes on it, but at the moment, because of the price of them, I just didn't see the point in spending that much money on them. And I also heard a lot that you have to really think hard about which ones you buy. You've got to really get in there and check for cracks and things like that, and I just didn't feel confident. So I decided that I was going to go with the factory cookie cutters, which only cost me £350 shipped from Germany. So, and they're in pretty good condition. And so once I made that decision, it became clear to me that I wasn't really that keen on doing things that were options in the car. I really just wanted to keep it factory. And after I made that decision, a lot of things became a lot clearer. So the interior became a lot clearer, though I am still leaning towards maybe leather seats, which was a factory option, but not a but it was a factory extra, not a factory standard option. So, but it's really helped me in terms of like making my decisions around oil coolers, AC, and all that sort of stuff, because I've just decided that if it's not a factory standard, then I'm not going to worry about it. So that's a really important decision, because it allows you to be consistent and allows the car to end up being consistent in what it comes out. I'm very fortunate that the car is all quite original. Like, it's going to have its original sills, it's going to have its original kidney bowls, it's going to be an original car in many, many respects. So I just don't see the need to mess with it that much. So that was decision number 1. That took a long time. Decision number 2 was about the engine. Even after 6 months of not being run, I came out here, I turned it over, and it started first time. So I have a very reliable engine at this point, but I know it's not running perfectly. And the decision was, do I leave the engine in and try to get it working best just by leaving it in, or have it taken out and send it away to be properly serviced? And in the end, what made the decision for me was the body, because there is surface rust in the top of the engine bay, and the only way to get rid of that and get to that properly is by taking the engine out. So the engine's coming out. So that was decision number 2, but I only really arrived at that maybe the last 2 or 3 weeks after a long time of thinking about it. And decision number 3 about the body, about the paintwork. The body itself that's a no-brainer. Any rust gets cut out and replaced with steel, full stop. But the paintwork. So I called some professionals, had a really good chat with them. They're all really nice to talk to. I have not talked to one professional that I thought was unreasonable or stuck up or anything like that. But what I have discovered is that for the most part, they're not really that keen on taking on a car unless they're going to have it for the full journey. So that means if we're talking paintwork alone is like 10 to 15 towards the 15k end of the spectrum. And I have to say that I'm not really that interested in that for two reasons. One, if I spent 15k on that, that's coming up on the purchase price of the vehicle, and that's money I'll never ever see back. And number two is I don't really want a museum piece. I want something that I can use and enjoy and not be worried about it all the time. And number three, I'll add one on. Number three is that it's got so little rust now. With a little bit of extra care and maybe a few extra products like epoxy coating and things like that, I feel that we should be able to have a paint finish that is still very good and will last without having to spend the world on it. And we'll do that at my uncle's, which will help to keep prices down. The other thing that happened over the last 6 months is that I went and visited my friend in the Netherlands. I had some parts sent to him from a Porsche place, second-hand Porsche place on the Belgian-Netherlands border. I've talked about the parts in the past, so I actually went there. I went to the Netherlands. We went there as a family for a family holiday on the Eurostar, and I brought back my parts on the Eurostar. That was a rear boot lid and two manifolds, if you can imagine. Got them on the Eurostar, no problems. A little bit difficulty fitting them through the X-ray machines, but otherwise no problems, no weight problems, no size problems. Saved myself 100 quid in shipping. Sure, it was a little bit of an awkward trip home, but totally worth it. So thank you to Florian for doing that for me. He's got my muffler at the moment, and I'm probably going to ask him to send that on. I probably won't be able to make the trip to Netherlands to pick that one up. Okay, so what's happened over the last 3 weeks? Well, a lot. You will notice that these should not be in my living room. Those came out quite tough. The front windscreen, the rubber was like, it dried so much that it was like snapping hard plastic. I invited a guy, a very, very good guy to come who knows about these cars to come and take out both windscreens. Came around, we did it in 90 minutes, charged me an excellent price, and overall was a very enjoyable time. So I'd just like to thank Paul. But to be able to get Paul over to take out those two windscreens, I needed to remove the stainless steel Targe hoop that goes over the roll bar. That was not particularly easy, and it led me down a bit of a wild goose chase. So while I started off wanting to take out the bar, this is what came out. The entire back seat. Just got to take out those back seats. Is all being taken off, including the Targe hoop. Alright. So when I was taking out the bar, as one might expect, I snapped off 2 bolts off the bottom of the bar on one side. They're currently being welded back on. So at least it's not the end of the world. It wasn't the end of the world. But when I was taking off the bar, it was quite a rigmarole. Because you're sort of trying to figure out what you should do. Read a lot of articles online in the forums, and also watch a lot of YouTube videos. And so what started off as taking off the bar sort of became, oh well, let's start taking off bits of bits of the trim around the bar, underneath the bar, and then before I know it, I'm taking off the trim throughout the whole back seat. So in many respects it was quite good because it had to be done. It was also quite enjoyable because it's one of those things that you can do, and as long as you've got a little bit of patience, you get a lot of progress and you see a lot of results really fast. So I was quite chuffed at how that went. The next thing to come off was the rear bumper. The rear bumper was quite tough. It was tough because in the end I had 3 rusted screws. So I gave up, went away, spent a week researching what to do about these rusted screws, came back and chopped them off. Well, actually not chopped them off. One of them I grinded off from behind. One of them I drilled out, and the third one I chopped off from the front. So that had to be done in 2 lots. These were the rusted screws. Started with strip down now, so you'll see here that we've taken off bits of the rear bumper, rear lights. Haven't been able to take off the bumper because I have a rusted in screw here, which is down here, which is quite annoying, and I also have one in the lights just here. It's completely stripped, and also one on this here, but this one's easy. I can just grind it off from the backside. Now the other thing that happened, because after I got those rusted screws off, I could take out the left and right rear indicator banks, and one of them came off pretty easy without too much trouble. Sure, the inside of them was a mess, but then the other side, when that came off, it was disintegrated. It was like someone had emptied a bag of confetti on my leg when I opened up the rear shell from the front. Quite astounding, really. It looked like this. Now, with all of that done, there was a lot of stuff that had to come off the car and into the garage, and the garage is starting to get a bit full now. So have a look at this, because I had to restack my garage and put in a 3rd shelf to be able to fit everything in. Alright, and this is what we've got in the shed. It's starting to fill up. Got the front bumper there. Got the trim hoop from underneath the roll bar. There's the roof there. There's the trim from the back behind the back seats. We've got some chrome up here. We've got boxes of lights and also small pieces of exterior panels, and then the most important things, our 2 windscreens, all wrapped up nice and tight, and some cookie cutter alloys ready to go. Alright, and what was done yesterday, and basically where I'm up to, is the front bumper was taken out. The front bumper was taken out, and I got started on the front fender, because we've got that rust down the inside of the fenders on both sides. I did a pretty good job, but I haven't managed to get the fender off because of the 2 bolts that are up behind the door, and I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to do that without taking off the door. Really hopeful that I can. So that's where we're up to right now. So here is a video of the car as it is right now. Alright, so just a brief tour of where we're at right now. There's a bonnet. There is the back of the car without any windscreen. You can see here where I've just done a bit of a patch up job until we're ready to fix it properly, where the rust is from underneath the rear windscreen. Most of the trim has been removed from the back. All that's really left is the seats and the door cards, and then that's everything, all the trim out. Come around to the front. There's a good example of what the rubber was like around the windscreen, so that was coming out, and here we go. You'll see here, we come around to the front, We've got the bumper removed, headlights out, and the fenders are almost ready to come out. So, making progress. Alright, so what's next? The first thing is those fenders are coming off. Those fenders are coming off, that is number one. Number two is that the engine's coming out. If the weather's good and I feel up to it, it'll be next weekend. But fingers crossed, we'll see what happens. Alright, well, thanks for listening. If you have any questions or you can provide any tips or hints, please send them through. Cheers, bye. So, we are ready for the back seats, for the back windows to come out, so that this rust here and here can be addressed. Here is the reveal underneath the chrome, the whole reason why we removed the back window. And yes, definitely worth removing the back window. So this is the passenger side rear windscreen area. This is where there was no evidence of rust, but take off the chrome and we have a little bit that needs to be fixed.